Well, hello everyone. You have right here showing right here is a picture right here of Santa Claus right here, but then also talking about text messaging. And a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we do think about the typical text messaging, that you're thinking that yeah, that that's pretty much is toward it pretty much the same thing as what you would be writing if you would be writing any sort of greeting card, right? If it's supposed to be any sort of yeah, greetings, maybe a invitation card or something like that to somebody, anything that you maybe what you would be able to find in the stockings, right? But a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we do speak about text messages, a lot of times that you read these text messages and those text messages are going to appear on your phone, right? And so that's why it seems like that. Yeah, the way I have this worder right here, it looks like that there's about maybe three or maybe four different ways on how you would be able to provide a fast, quick, service. And so it's like you got the QR code scanner right here, and like yeah, like it would be more like a typical pen design right here, but this right here will be like a place normally where a QR code scanner will be a code scanner that you'll be able to scan from your phone right here, and then you see right here are these text messages, and so it's like yeah, so each time you do think about that, and you're thinking that yeah, that you whenever you do think about a letter to Santa or something like that, and you're warned toward it, yeah, that especially whenever it comes to learning something new, that you're thinking is toward it, what you're used to doing a lot of times. Like everybody might say that you talk to Santa and everything, but still that so a lot of times it seems like that each time you do think about this photograph right here, you're thinking is toward okay, yeah, that you go ahead and write a list of Santa Claus right here, but then it's like you're wanting to know too that nowadays with this text messaging and everything, and you're thinking is toward okay, yeah, that what does that usually mean? Whenever you do receive a text, and let's just say if you do receive a text, and then it's going to say is toward it, yeah, we'll text you a code, but then yeah, you got a certain time of the hour, you just to be able to come from like yeah. So to me though, it's like yeah, that there's a code that you'll receive on your phone, or maybe if it's a winning number or something like that. A lot of times it's like for a contest or something like that, and so that's why it seems like yeah, everybody else might say that really that instead, like yeah, like you have the picture right there in front of the Santa, right next to Santa Claus, but like everybody might say that don't you think that maybe something like that would be look good in a stocking? And but still, but you have right here the silly faces right here, but you see right here that I have these text messages saying is to where whenever it comes to sending a text messages, you are pretty much sending a message to another device, but it is an example of delivering a Christmas present. And do we necessarily think that a lot of times that whenever you do send a text message, by the way, is it pretty much the same thing as coming from the North Pole and delivering a Christmas present to to a child? And a lot of times you're one to know too that yeah, whenever you do receive a text message, by the way, that yeah, that it's going to another device, right? It's going to another device, and it sure seems that way. That whenever it comes to a letter from Santa Claus, or maybe if you're going to be talking to Santa Claus, and let's just say that everybody might say that if you were to be writing a letter to Santa Claus right here, and let's just say that yeah, that you're going to be talking to Santa Claus right here, and I can go ahead and put right here as a capital W right here, because like everybody might say that whenever you first use the service, by the way, that what is the first letter that you start out with whenever you do respond to the message right there? And it's maybe going to be as to where yeah, that well, yeah, well this or well that or something like that. But in a lot of ways, you want to know too that really what is the first letter that you do think of whenever you think about text messaging a lot of times. And is it a B or is it a Q or is it an R or something like that? But it's like, yeah, whenever it comes to sending a text message, that it's going to another device. It's being generated into a computer or something. And so, but if you're going to be getting, yeah, you know, what does the C look like? You know, capital C right there for Christmas right there. So every time you do think about that, and you're wanting to wear that, you know, the first thing that's really going to be coming to your mind is to where that, you know, how do you know my name? Yeah, how do you know my name? So a lot of times it sure seems that way that, you know, every time you think about a text message, each text message that goes out, by the way, that, is it really generated into a computer? Or is it that, you know, if you're in the system to be contacted or something like that? But every time you do think about text messaging, by the way, that it's not the same thing as a box of chocolates, and believe it or not, that it's pretty much the same thing as writing a message onto a greeting card, like if you're going to be writing a letter. And a lot of times you're always want to know too that, you know, with these messages by right here, that you go ahead and write a message on a Christmas card. And let's just say if it says, you know, something like holiday joy or something like that, or maybe, you know, great greetings or something like that, but still, that you go ahead and write in a message on that Christmas card right there. And it's like, yeah, so if you were to see something kind of like this, maybe with just a little bit of like, you know, yeah, a little bit of Christmas, some like texture effects or something like that, but you're thinking as toward it, yeah, whenever you do receive a text message, but then it's like, yeah, there will be like a text message that would show up like something like this right here, to where it would announce maybe a winning number or something like that, or that, yeah, you will be assigned a winning number or something like that, or I have a special gift for you or something like that. So it sure seems that way that that whenever you think about text messaging, by the way, that, you know, you don't really think too much about who gets to go first, and maybe who's the oldest, and maybe who's the tallest or something like that. So we might even be raised knowing about the fact about who gets to open the first present and all that, but still. But whenever it comes to maybe during Christmas morning or something like that, and you're thinking that, yeah, that ways on how you can go ahead and send text messages right here. But the source of language for what you do really see right here is that you would see these text messages right here, and you know, you would see you know, to my baby boy or something like that, and so it sure seems that way that you know, every time you do think about that, and you're 102, that you go ahead and write a text message right here, yeah, to my baby boy or something like that. And you're warned to where that, you know, yeah, that to my baby boy right here, and you're thinking that, you know, it doesn't go through the text directly like that, Ashley, that what you normally see it. I'm like, oh yeah, so it's like to my baby boy or something like that, and so with a lot of this digital technology, it sure seems that way. People might say it's not the same thing as compared to what it usually is, but like everybody might say that the main reason maybe why you would use it for sure is if you want to do something fast and I'm like, yeah, fast and quick, you know, fast and quick mainly. You know, the only reason maybe why you would be using this option right here for any reason at all, if you could figure it out, take a few moments to figure it out for sure, is if it was fast and quick. And a lot of grandparents might say that, you know, that would really be the only time that maybe you would use these 3 or 4 simple steps here. Is the fact, you know, the fact is if it's fast and quick, and so whenever it's fast and quick, and people might say that that's really, like everybody might say, it's the same thing as maybe as to where that whenever you make a silly face in front of the camera, right? Fast and quick, okay? You're just playing around. but still, that why do you think maybe mommy and daddy would maybe make that request? Let's just say that if they are trying to send money, or maybe if they are trying to send a message to somebody, and let's just say that that message was received, to your smartphone, to your tablet device, and you're thinking that, that it's not really. I'm like, yeah, like everybody might say that every time you think about this, for sure, it's maybe going to remind you of that, of that calculator that you used to use. The calculator, and you may even think that, sending a text message to somebody, to you, may even seem like it's maybe just a little bit of how to round to the nearest tenths or something like that, or maybe solving a decimal fraction. But at the same time, it's like people might say that it's maybe just a little bit of algorithms or something like that. But with these numbers right here, I guess would represent for a number. Then if you received a text message, on your phone, that they usually say is that you have within about maybe that 24, up to 48 hours to call that number back or something like, if it's a winning number or something like that. But each time you think about that, and you're warned toward it, that's a source of communication right there, is through text. And I know whenever it comes to the elections and all that, and whenever it does come to understanding about that, trying to complete an application or something like that. And so that's why it seems like, whenever it comes to photographs, and maybe whenever it comes, like everybody might say that, any job that you do have, if you want it to be fast and quick right here, that you're always thinking that, fast and quick, that, you mainly, this is really what you have to do right here, is that just take a photograph of that, but still, fast and quick right here. So really, that the only time that maybe you would use something like that, and you might be thinking is toward, okay, that so the first thing that you think about is that, okay, am I doing this right, or is something wrong? And so you got the zoom tool right here, and so you're thinking is toward that you got the zoom tool right here, but it's like, so really that every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that, really, if you find out that you are doing something wrong for sure, that, does that really make you, too much professional? And like everybody else might even say that, it really does not really make you too much professional at all, whenever, if you're not doing something right, if you're learning a new skill. So like everybody might say that, what does Santa Claus really have anything to say about that? Want to know too that, if you're trying to deliver your presents, especially if you're flying with your eight tiny reindeer flying across the world, and want to know too that whenever it comes to something that goes wrong, or anything that goes wrong, right? And so it sure seems that way that especially during Christmas morning, that how many of us are really going to be arguing about the fact about who gets to go first? And so I really think in a lot of ways people would say that that they're going to say that you first. I want you to go first because I want to see I want to see you do that. And I hear that quite a bit, by the way, that everybody might say that, whenever you do try something new, for sure, or maybe like everybody might say that, you want that person to go first, mainly because of the fact that, is it really about the fact about, almost all the time, that whenever you do think about that, and you're want to know too, that, you first. I want you to go first. Why do you want me to go first? And so really, what are our reasons? What sorts of reasons do you think anybody would maybe say that, especially on Christmas morning? Why do you want that person to go first? Do you want to go ahead and ask them to go ahead and open their first Christmas present. And so it sure seems that way, that for any reason at all that you go ahead and put on there is toward it, I want you to go first. And it's one of those reasons. It's because that, that you are recognized. Like, if it's really about the fact about, special, special recognition or something like that. And maybe I can use that besides special all the time, like everybody say, something like that. I'm like, that's not even spelled. I'm like, recognition. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so if we were to say that in general, like everybody might say that, special recognition. There's maybe other words on how you want to describe that for sure. But if we're talking about, Christmas morning, though, and you're 102, that, who's really the first one to go first? And usually it's the oldest. People might say the way in your house, it's usually either the parent or maybe if it's the oldest. I know, and I'm like, everybody might even say too that a lot of times you always want to know too that why do you take the time to have that source of discussion? By the way, why do you take time to have that discussion with anybody? Like you wake up Christmas morning, and then let's just say that special recognition. Who's the oldest? Who gets to go first and who gets to go second? And so it sure seems that way that, everybody might even say too that, that the reason why that we are all here gathered around the Christmas tree, and I know that people might say that, anybody who worked the hardest, anybody who, hard, and, that's another thing too, worked hardest. So really, that I really think in a lot of ways, like everybody might say that, really that do you really think about that too much at a time? That why do you think maybe anybody, especially on Christmas morning, why do you think that they would want you to go first to open up the Christmas present, the first Christmas present? Why do you think that they would want you to go first to telling them the story? And why do you think they want you to go first? And maybe why do you think that you want to go last? And so maybe Santa Claus might even say that, is it really about the recognition, or like everybody might say that, who's in first in line or something like that? But really that, but whenever you do think about that, by the way, and you're thinking this toward, fast and quick right here, and you're always want to know too that. Who gets to go first, and then for those who get to go first, and so each time you think about that in your warrant, or especially whenever it comes to sending somebody Christmas money, whenever it comes to anything that you're going to be doing, and maybe if it's anything special for sure, anything by the kind of curiosity that you're thinking that. Really, whenever it's Christmas morning for sure. And so it sure seems that way, that like everybody might say that you go ahead and take the time to read the messages right here. And, for those who made this Christmas morning possible. And any parent might even say too that, made this possible. Made this possible. So it sure seems like, I can go ahead and style it up, but who made this possible? To where that we do you want to go ahead and just use that? Possible, and So each time you do think about that, you're thinking that, yeah, that you wake up one Christmas morning and then thinking is toward it, yeah, you're able to get a picture, and like everybody might say that, yeah, especially if it's a guess. I'll tell everybody too that, based on my opinion, by the way, I like a lot of times. I do like being awarded that whenever I do take a guess on something, by the way, for any reason at all, I'll tell them that that's my opinion. If I were to take a lucky guess about something for sure, especially on Christmas morning, this is what's going to be happening, okay? Everybody, this is what's going to be happening on Christmas morning. Whenever you wake up, that there's going to be hot chocolate, and then there's going to be, Christmas cookies on the kitchen table. So yeah. So everybody might say that, whenever the way you think about that for sure, whenever we do talk about Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, whenever you take a guess on something that you think is toward, okay, yeah, almost everybody in the family, they're going to say that you get to go first to open up your Christmas present because whenever you guessed something correctly or something like that, or you put in a little bit more hard work into this occasion, and so yeah, like with me though, that it's like everybody might say that whenever you do take a guess on something, what do you think Santa Claus has to say about that? Whenever you do take a guess on something, and let's just say if you are correct or something like that, yeah, answer a few trivia questions or something like that, you'd have made this possible, and so like everybody might say that, yeah, well, especially. I think most parents would maybe agree that whenever you made this special moment possible, that makes it special to us. You made this possible, and to where that, to where that you delivered the presents, and then also you were able to, you volunteered, and so that's why it seems like, every time you do think about that right there, and you're warned to where that whenever it's Christmas though. That you're thinking that, a lot of things that you're thinking about for sure, but it sure seems that way that, the first thing that you think about, of course, for sure, is that while you're working, that things are possible, things become possible while you're working. So it's like every time you do think about that, every time you do think clearly about that, that you're always thinking as toward it, really, what would really make a lot of these special moments possible? Whenever you do think about ideas, whenever you do think about what's best, for what works best, and then, for whenever you do, work, and then also that whenever you do learn something, and especially, I'm like, yeah, so like everybody might say that, maybe almost every Christmas that you think about that is that you think about these moments in time. And you're thinking as toward it, the one moment that you do remember is that maybe, if anything, you imagine the photograph of your children sitting right next to Santa Claus, but it's provided on an ornament. It's an ornament, and you think about that picture provided on an ornament right there, and so that's why it seems like everybody's going to say that. On an ornament right there, you get an ornament made of that photograph right there. So really, I would say that if I were to be writing any sorts of text right here, and like everybody might say that you would say stuff, you would say stuff on that text message, such as whenever it comes to sending a text message, but then I would respond. Yeah, I would respond with cheers or something like that. Everybody might say that, I would respond with cheers. And, so it sure seems that way that, only you can do this or something like that, but it sure seems that way that, like everybody might say that, how often are we really going to maybe mark the time on there? Holiday cheers. And also, if you put on there, 3 a.m. right there. Yeah, you were up until 3 o'clock in the morning working on that. You were up until 3 a.m. and everybody might say that you were supposed to be asleep. And so how many of us really think that you receive a text message maybe around midnight or maybe around 3 a.m. and you're 102 that you have to be asleep, 3 a.m. yeah, you're asleep. And so every time you do think about that, your text messaging, by the way, that people might say that yeah, you have to be asleep, for this just for this gift to be delivered. You have to be asleep. You have to be sleeping, before silent night. I'm like, yeah, so you have to be asleep, just before the presents are delivered, or just for that special occasion to be delivered, or something like that. But still, that so each time you do think about that, and you're always 102 that if you do, you might even tell grandma that that if you do fall asleep, you may think that you're not going to wake up on time. If you do fall asleep, you're not going to wake up on time, just to be able to watch your favorite TV show, or maybe to sing the Christmas carols, meet up with your friends or anything like that. So like everybody might say, especially, maybe let's just say if you've been sick for quite a while, that you're always 102, that any text messages that you do get from somebody, and you're always thinking that there are some deliveries that you had to be asleep, for some of these deliveries to be received. And so that's why it seems like everybody might say that why do you think that you would maybe want to list an agenda on there that I would be asleep, I'm going to be asleep between these times, so you can go and deliver between these times. And everybody might say that, you think that you would want to put that like an asleep. I'm gonna be asleep between these times. Yeah, between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. Yeah, you go and tell somebody that I'm gonna be asleep. I'm gonna be asleep between these times right here, and everybody might even say that, really, that you go ahead and write that down between the hours that you're going to be asleep. And you're always 102. Really, why would anybody do that? How often are you really going to be asked that question? That, do we really think about that? Do you have to write down the hours from whenever you're going to be asleep? And so that way, you can have your presents delivered. And everybody say, Christmas Day, or if it's going to be Christmas Eve. But still, every time you do think about that, by the way, that you're thinking that, okay, that, see if you can go in, try to put those together right there. Yeah, it don't have to be different words, but is that okay? Or I'm like, I can maybe change that to something else, but anyway, but so every time you do think about that, go ahead and just use that right there. Between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., you're going to be asleep. So you're thinking that you're going to be awake by 5 a.m., maybe by 8 a.m., or maybe as early as 8 a.m. that you're going to be awake. And, so really, why would anybody do that? I'm like, why do you think that you would want to keep a schedule for whenever you're going to be asleep, especially on Christmas Eve? And but there again, like everybody might say that, try to think about what is possible, but still. But each time you do think about that, and you're thinking, talk about for fast and quick right here, and you're thinking that, by 8 a.m., by 8 a.m., I should be, I should be awake by 8 a.m. And so it sure seems that way that, I'll be awake, and Yeah. You do you really keep a schedule of that? Do you keep count of all that for sure? But it's like every time you do think about that, yeah, you be awake. Will you be awake around this time? And yeah, as early as 8 a.m., I'll be awake. And so it sure seems that way. That every time you do think about that, and you're always wondering to where that really, why do you think anybody would want to keep a schedule with when they're going to be asleep and whenever they're going to be awake? And do you think maybe Santa Claus will be asking that? About yeah. If anything, if you do get a text message, by the way, that more likely that you probably would see that, something like that right there. Be awake and having an alarm clock on your phone for sure, or even on a tablet, that you keep track of that schedule. And people might say that that if you think that you'll be in bed around this time, and when do you think you'll be awake? And like everybody might say that to me that reminds me so much of whenever you have a Pop-Tart, you're having a Pop-Tart, you're cooking a Pop-Tart, and yeah, you set the timer on the Pop-Tart, but a lot of times that Pop-Tart, by the way, is ready within 2 minutes, something like that. So it's like everybody might say that if you could figure it out for sure on how to use the text message, like yeah, figure that out in 2 minutes, if anything, about how to the Pop-Tart comes out, and then you're ready to have to enjoy it. And but still, if it's scrambled eggs or maybe Christmas cookies or something like that, but still. So each time you do think about that, and you're always thinking that yeah, be awake around 8 a.m. or you'll be asleep between these times, for the presents to be delivered. And that's why it seems like I'll show everybody here that whenever it comes to whenever it does come to reading messages, though, and you're thinking that yeah, like the things that you like to have and all that, but whenever it comes to sending text messages, that about the messages you sent to another device, so they do the same thing, but still that you have right here, like everybody might say that it looks like that there's 3 or 4 different ways on how. I'm like, yeah, if you really want something fast and quick right here, if it's going to be Christmas money or anything, but still. So it sure seems that way, that whenever you do think about that, 102, that yeah, anything that you're doing wrong or so or something like that. But so you look at that Christmas, yeah, you look at that right there. Anybody might say that while you're working and doing stuff, for sure, it's going to remind you of a certain moment, right? A certain moment in time. And that moment in time, of course, is maybe going to say is to where that, yeah, it may not be something that you really want to be reminded of, but for sure, it's going to be something that, somebody else is really like, yeah, are they going to want to keep that in mind? Or everybody might even say that, really, you would really only use text messaging for sure is if you were trying to take care of something quick. If you were trying to take care of something fast and quick, for sure that you would go ahead and use it. And, the remote option, or like what you call like to send a little sticker of the candy cane or the gingerbread man or something like that. But still, it's like, the first thing that you think about for sure is that, yeah, if it's a sticker, or maybe if it's a picture, if it's some sort of animated picture or something like that with children right there. And you're always thinking that, yeah, that you can't remember you may not be able to remember everything, but at the same time, it sure seems that way, that that every time you think about that, why do you think that maybe a few agendas start just popping up? By the time you do get it figured out for sure, that's going to maybe, I'm like, yeah, like everybody might say that the way you think about it for sure. You look at all this right here, and for sure, it's going to bring back memories, and of course, it's going to remind you to take care of something. And And that is why it seems like everybody might say that maybe a text message, like, yeah, text messages are like, yeah, like coupons and all. Some, some of them do expire, but like everybody say that really each time you do think about that, then you're thinking that yeah, if you even if you're in your pajamas and maybe if you yeah, people might say that the only time that maybe you would be using a lot of service for sure is that if it's fast and quick right here. But still, the way I think about it too is that talk about for Merry Christmas, everyone.